This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Welcome to the Sunday Lunchtime Show on Teachers Talk Radio. Today's topic of conversation is empowering English language learners. And I'm pleased to have with me as my guest a teacher from Turkey, Seda Yaman, to talk about this and much more.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Welcome back. As I mentioned, today's topic is all about empowering English language learners. And Seda Yaman joins me from Turkey to talk to me about this. I asked Seda to be my guest because she recently wrote an article in the magazine for teachers that IATEFL, that's the International Association of Teachers of English as a Foreign Language, recently published. Seda Yaman is a passionate English teacher and teacher trainer based in Turkey with a rich background in cultural studies and a focus on language development. Committed to empowering young learners, she promotes innovative teaching practices in English language teaching. She believes in addressing students from different backgrounds to foster inclusive learning environments. And she has a master's degree in cultural studies. And this and her work as an English teacher has given her insights into language development across different student groups. Through her commitment to lifelong learning and her passion for effective education, Seda significantly contributes to the learning community, ensuring that both teachers and students benefit from enriched educational experiences. And I will be talking to Seda after the Teachers Talk Radio news.
Parentkind are a national charity representing parent views and voice and championing parental participation in education and school life. By fostering strong school-parent partnerships, we can boost student attendance, improve behaviour, and enhance academic performance. When parents actively participate, students thrive. Join the movement that's reshaping education for the better. Visit parentkind.org to learn more about reaping the rewards of working in partnership with parents.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Do you ever wish you could sit down with other teachers and delve into the challenges and opportunities we face? Well, that's exactly what Table Talks at Bet UK is all about. Join small roundtable discussions based on your selected topics to share insights, learn from peers, and tackle the big issues in education, all in a sponsor-free environment. This is your chance to connect and collaborate like never before. Be part of the conversation at Bet UK in January 2025. Visit uk.betshow.com to learn more.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
Schools Week features early feedback from the curriculum review led by Professor Becky Francis. According to the article, teachers feel disempowered and deprofessionalised by overstipulation and the challenge to cover content. Professor Francis said the roadshows have so far gathered mixed and diverse views. She spoke at the recent CST conference about how frequent complaints are around how assessment and exams dictate the curriculum, which is often described as overstuffed, and that this has led to the deprioritisation of certain subjects and reduced enrichment activities. Concerns have also been raised about a lack of awareness of vocational routes at post-16. Positive themes have included an appreciation of the ambition for all in the current national curriculum, and reading was mentioned as a thing that has gone well. The TES magazine covers draft proposals for changes to Ofsted's inspection framework. The magazine says Ofsted told sector leaders that teaching could be assessed as a separate category under new draft plans. The watchdog has been sharing its initial plans for inspection areas with a wide range of senior figures in recent weeks, ahead of a formal consultation launch in the new year. A report in the Financial Times has said that Ofsted is also proposing replacing its current grading system with a 5-point scale, in which schools would be rated as being exemplary, strong practice, secure, attention needed, or causing concern in each area. The TES reports there had been another version of the proposals that included a 7-point scale. Head teachers' leaders have raised concerns that Ofsted's plans are too complicated and warned that the Department for Education and the Inspectorate are in a headlong rush to create a new system. The plans involve separating out teaching and the curriculum into separate inspection areas, which have caused concern amongst those who have been consulted, particularly amid the recruitment and retention challenges. Teaching and curriculum are assessed together in the current framework. Ofsted's informal consultation comes after the Inspectorate was warned not to draw up its new framework behind closed doors. Other categories understood to be included in the new report card proposals include attendance, opportunities to thrive, outcomes, behaviour, leadership, preparation for next steps, and also inclusion. An Ofsted source told TES the proposal to make teaching a separate category was not about returning to lesson observations. Instead, it was about making it clear that the focus would be on how teachers are supported. The spokesperson said, "Great teaching is the most important lever schools have to improve pupil attainment for the most disadvantaged pupils." The Guardian reports on young people from working class backgrounds are being blocked from entering the creative industries, which remain elitist according to research. A report from the Sutton Trust found stark overrepresentation in the arts for those from the most affluent backgrounds. About 7% of people educated in the UK attend private fee-paying schools. However, 43% of Britain's best-selling classical musicians and 35% of BAFTA-nominated actors are alumni of private schools. However, pop stars appear to better reflect the educational backgrounds of the UK population, with only 8% privately educated and 20% university educated, which are both close to the national average. The report said, "There are clear class inequalities in creative higher education, and the creative workforce with high-profile creative figures in fields like television more likely to have attended private school and university than the population overall." The Sutton Trust has called for a range of measures to improve access to the arts, with its chief executive saying it is a tragedy that young people from working-class backgrounds are the least likely to study creative arts degrees. Further details, including a range of statistics, can be found in the article on the Guardian website. Finally, the Irish Times features a story on Ryanair's Michael O'Leary, who it says has doubled down on comments he made about teachers, saying he wouldn't generally employ a lot of teachers to go out and get things done. The comments have been condemned by many as insulting and failed to reflect the enormous contribution teachers have made to Irish society and enterprise. Mr. O'Leary was apparently unapologetic and said he was making a serious point. Full details can be found in the Irish Times online. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
So welcome back, everyone. I'm very happy to say that I'm here with Sarah Yaman. Sarah, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How about you?
Very well, thanks. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about your trajectory as an English teacher, but also about empowering English language learners. As usual, I'd like to start by asking you about how you became a teacher. What was it that interested you in education?
Thank you so much. So, today I'm very excited to share with you my journey to become a teacher. Like many educators, actually, my journey began with an inherent curiosity about the world around me, about the education. I have a brother, and when my brother first started the school, I was very jealous of him. I was wearing his backpack and I was using his stationery materials. I was pretending that I was the one who was going to school, and the whole attention was on him. My parents were having daily conversation about school, and then from a young age, I was very eager to go to school. And I remember those days, I was pretending to be a teacher in my living room. I had a chalk in my hand, I had a mini whiteboard, and I was teaching my imaginary classroom. My teddy bears were sitting in a row. I was giving them some instructions. They were like students and they were listening to me. Even I remember that I was giving them chocolate if they do something good. I was preparing some materials for them. And as I progressed through school, I had the fortune to encounter many inspiring teachers, and they actually gave me the confidence to pursue my passion for learning. It was during my secondary education that I began to see teaching as a potential career path. And my teachers helped me a lot in that. They had a profound impact on me. And I witnessed that it is very important to motivate the students because a teacher can transform the lives of a student. I realized that my teachers were connecting with the students, they were recognizing their individual strengths and weaknesses, they were encouraging them, they were trying to see their full potential. And I realized at that moment that teaching was more than just imparting knowledge, it was all about fostering an environment where students feel valued, they feel understood or empowered. And during this journey, my passion for teaching was solidified and I started to become a teacher.
And was it always English that you wanted to teach, or were you thinking about other subjects at the time? Or
Actually, I was into social studies as well, but I recognized that many students at my age was facing some unique challenges while they are learning a new language. And I realized that I was one of those students who was facing challenges in language classrooms. And I felt a deep sense of responsibility to help such students to navigate those challenges. And I decided at those times that in the future I will become a teacher, and in my classroom, all students, regardless of their language background, regardless of their proficiency, they will feel included. They will feel understood. They will feel empowered to express themselves. So, actually, the lessons that I learned from my own education life and from my own educators have fueled my desire to make a lasting impact in the lives of my future students and inspiring them to discover their own passions, their own strengths. And this journey has started with jealousy, but then it turned into a kind of commitment.
so when you qualified as a teacher and you started working, was there a particular age group that you were attracted to teaching?
Actually, I have completed my 10 years of teaching at various levels. I started in high school. It was
Hmm.
a quite challenging experience for me because I
Hmm.
was novice teacher, and after that, I moved on to teaching in kindergarten, primary schools, and language schools. While I enjoyed those experiences, I truly found my comfort zone in middle school. Each level has its own unique aspects, but I feel that I connect best with middle school students. I don't know why, but each experience actually has shaped the way that I interact with my students, understand their needs, and then now I'm teaching in middle school and I feel myself very comfortable.
And do you find that the students are interested? Are they motivated in learning English in Turkey?
They are, because they feel the necessity of learning a new language. Whichever profession they choose, they will have to speak English very fluently in an accurate way, because in each sector, in each area, they will need that. They are aware of that fact. And in my classroom, most of my students are motivated. Of course, I have some students who need extra support, who need extra attention into lesson, but I can say that most of them are really eager.
And I know that you are interested also in cultural studies. I'd love to hear about how you think that connects with the teaching of the language and why you think it's important to embed culture and language together.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I had my MA degree in cultural studies. When I started to teach, at first I focused solely on delivering lessons and managing my classroom. But then I realized that being a good teacher requires many different skills, and being a
Mm.
good teacher required constant growth. And I found myself reflecting on my teaching practices, and I felt the need for professional development. And because in my classroom there were students from different cities or from different countries, I started to seek out more professional development opportunities, and I decided to have master's degree in cultural studies, because by learning about different cultures, you actually delve into that language. I always believe that languages have spirits, they have souls. When you start to teach a language, you are actually teaching its culture, its music style, its clothes, cuisine, everything. So you cannot just focus on grammatical structures, or you cannot just focus on vocabulary. You need to know something deep inside that language. You need to know the background of those reading passages, because you know that in language classes we are reading lots of different reading passages. For example, now I'm teaching middle school students, and we're in the unit of history, and we're talking about terracotta armies. So those terracotta soldiers are made out of clay. So that's a very interesting topic. In order to convey my message to students, I should know something about the history. I should know something about the past. So that's why I studied cultural studies, and I saw the impact of that master's degree in my teaching. And I can also spark a light in my students. I can show that being a teacher does not mean that you will be always in the classroom and you will do the same thing again and again. You can improve yourself. You have a kind of path in front of you, and in your career path, you can actually support yourself by means of different professional opportunities.
Wow. And I know you feel very passionate about the need to foster inclusive learning environments. How do you approach that in your own classes?
So, in the classrooms, I always say that we can use different strategies. A good English teacher should have different specialized strategies. But at the most basic level, one of the strategy is to put yourself into your students' shoes. So, English language students face many unique challenges because they are learning a new language, they are also adopting a new culture and new academic environment. So empowering them is not only for their academic success, but also for their emotional and social well-being. So one of the most important thing is connection. So establishing a connection with ELL learners is very crucial for their success. Think about the first day of school. So we walk into a new environment, we have a mix of feelings like excitement and the fear. So this experience, ELL classroom, can be even more overwhelming. You're facing a new classroom atmosphere, new students, new teachers, new friends, but also you're trying to adjust to a new setting, and you have the challenge of communicating in a language that you may not fully understand. So we need to be very inclusive, regardless of their backgrounds. We need to approach each student with a positive tone. I always say that and where that doesn't matter where they come from or where their families come from. It doesn't matter. The important thing is to build a bond between you and that student. So for the students as well, knowing that your teacher cares enough to make the effort to get to know you as a person can have a very motivating effect, and it contributes to an atmosphere in which each student feels known, appreciated, and they are more likely to fully open themselves to learning process. And when they first come into classrooms, I focus on building a relationship with what? With smiles, with gestures, with body languages, or with games. There are lots of different strategies actually to create an inclusive environment.
And that takes us to the main topic of our conversation, empowering learners. From what I understand, the self-confidence of the learner is particularly important when it comes to empowering them. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And in my article in Voices by IATFL, I emphasize the importance of self-confidence because learning a new language is not only about mastering the grammatical rules. I have realized a very interesting fact throughout my teaching journey. The students with less confidence but with more knowledge usually struggle to express themselves in English. They may be perfectionists, but on the other hand, those with overconfidence but less knowledge can start talking without thinking about fluency or accuracy. So, self confidence is at the core of our lessons. I always impose my students that you can make mistakes. And there is a common saying mistakes are proof that you are learning. I'm always emphasizing the importance of self confidence, but it doesn't happen all of a sudden. It requires a kind of time, process, and patience. And as I said before, connection is very important. When you have a positive rapport, when you have a good connection with your students, they actually start to believe that, yeah, I can do that. I am very talented. I have the ability, I have the potential, and my teacher is always supporting me. We are not like sages on the stages. We are the guides on the sides, and we're always saying that, but in the classroom, we should make our students feel that energy. They should feel that, yes, my teacher is with me. Whenever I make a mistake, my teacher will support me, and nobody will laugh at my mistake. So this is very common in Turkish schools. Students sometimes are very how can I say, apprehensive. They are scared because their peers can laugh at their mistakes and they prefer not to talk. They are introvert, they are shy, but here the teacher is the key person. That teacher should understand that an introvert student and should try to engage the student into lessons by means of different strategies.
Yes, I can see that. So, how would you start trying to improve the self-confidence of learners? If you have a new class, for example, what kind of things do you actually do in class to get started and help the learners?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question too. So, using a daily check-in activity is actually a great way to start building trusting relationships with your students. And whenever I start a new lesson, I like using warm-up activities in order to learn their moods. I recommend having them draw pictures of how they are feeling. For example, if I'm teaching primary class or kindergarten class, drawing pictures is a very nice way to start. Or I can simply say that give a thumbs up or thumbs down, or yes, I ask some yes no questions to learn about their mood at that day. Because you know that students are coming to school with a burden on their shoulders. They may have some arguments with their parents or with their peers. So we should first try to make them feel at ease at schools. And using positive gestures, tone of voice can help ELL learners feel at ease. And this can help them feel comfortable and safe in their learning environment. And a very simple start for this is to simply smile, keep a calm and relaxed body. And incorporating play based learning is also a very good opportunity to model positive gestures. And I always start by breaking down larger language objectives into smaller and manageable tasks because the student can feel very stressful or nervous because they will start ELL lesson, and we should give the learner a sense of achievement. So we can just start by asking, what is the day? Tell me today's date. Talk about today's weather. So these are very simple tasks, and student will answer those questions in a very confident way because they already know the weather conditions, days and months. So in order to sustain motivation during the learning process, we can start with smaller tasks, and young learners can feel the sense of achievement by means of that.
Very interesting. I'd love to hear something more about the play activities that you do in class. Do you have any favorite activities that you always use?
Mhm. So in my classroom, I am into digital technology, by the way. Over the 2 years, 3 years, I am looking for new technological tools that I can utilize in my classrooms, especially after the pandemic. Technology is advancing at an incredible pace with the AI, with other kinds of tools. So it is inevitable that we should use it in our classroom. So I like using some online games and some hands-on activities. For the online games, there are numerous websites and applications that students can use individually and or they can be used in a whole group activity. For example, I use Starfall, a learning website with interactive games, songs, and activities. I like using Kahoot. It's a game-based learning program for creating, playing, or sharing learning games. Quizlet, when I'm teaching a new vocabulary, I like using digital flashcards for learning vocabulary. And for example, if you're teaching animals, I don't just simply show the flashcards and say, this is cat, this is dog. I use, for example, National Geographic Kids. In this website, there are numerous educational videos, and it is very helpful for ELL students. For digital games, I use WordWall. This is also very useful. Bamboozle or Duolingo. These are the websites that I use. Apart from those things, I like having some circles at the beginning of my lessons, especially for the elder students, for the teenagers. I like having some debates or discussions on any topic, or I start with some mind-bending questions, like what? For example, if you were an object in the classroom, what would you like to be? This is an interesting question, and they start saying different kinds of opinions. Or I'm asking, if fish could fly or the birds could swim, what would happen? So these are mind-bending questions, but it's a very nice way to start a lesson because it's also focuses on critical thinking skills of the students. They are not just only debating, they're also having fun because while I'm asking those questions, they are expecting a logical question, but I'm asking a different creative questions to them. So these are very helpful when I start a lesson. A conversation circle is a great way to start because students can discuss a topic of their choice as well. And I also use some kind of mock situations. For example, if I'm teaching food subject, I create a restaurant atmosphere in the classroom. There is a mock restaurant in our classroom. So one of the student becomes customer, one of the student becomes waiter or waitress, and they start to give some orders. They are also using the target vocabulary, and they're also feeling that they are in the real restaurant because using real life scenarios also helps students to understand that language in a particular way. They understand that language deeply. Also, there is a website. It is called Food Cuisine. It is made by Google Arts. It is based on Google platform. And here you can actually learn about different cultures and different foods. For example, it gives you some options. You choose some countries and some different kinds of foods, and they create you, that website creates you a recipe. It says that, for example, in United Kingdom, they use those dishes, and in, let's say, in Germany, they use those kinds of dishes. And if we combine those two different cultures, what can we create? So by using that Food Mood digital website, students can create their own food. That's also a very nice way to use in our classrooms.
That sounds really interesting. I'll have to check that out.
Parentkind are a national charity representing parent views and voice and championing parental participation in education and school life. By fostering strong school-parent partnerships, we can boost student attendance, improve behaviour and enhance academic performance. When parents actively participate, students thrive. Join the movement that's reshaping education for the better. Visit parentkind.org to learn more about reaping the rewards of working in partnership with parents.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Do you ever wish you could sit down with other teachers and delve into the challenges and opportunities we face? Well, that's exactly what Table Talks at BetUK is all about. Join small roundtable discussions based on your selected topics to share insights, learn from peers, and tackle the big issues in education, all in a sponsor-free environment. This is your chance to connect and collaborate like never before. Be part of the conversation at BetUK in January 2025. Visit uk.betshow.com to learn more.
One of the things that you started talking about before was this idea and importance of the learning environment. How do you go about creating a learning environment that is a space where the learners can feel comfortable, take risks, make mistakes? Is it partly to do with the actual physical space, or is it more about trying to, as you said before, creating rapport and making the learners feel comfortable and confident? Or is it a bit of both?
In our classrooms, actually, we have students from different levels. So another way that we can empower ELLs is actually through a differentiated instruction. We must, as teachers, recognize that ELLs have varying levels of proficiency in English, and that's okay. That is not a big problem. One effective strategy that I employed in my classes is using visual aids and multimedia resources. For example, I use pictures, videos, even physical objects, and I believe that this way students can grasp the concepts before diving into complex texts. And let's say if you're teaching gravity, I was teaching this year gravity, science, and planets. These are very complicated issues. I drew just an apple. I talked about Newton and relativity theory. And then I started to teach the word orbit. I named students as sun and moon. They started to dance in the classroom. So actually combining some non-linguistic representation along with the linguistic component of each lesson benefits all students. And the strategy here is to show as well as tell. So show and tell, they are together, they go hand in hand. And it is very important to scaffold some instructional materials with relevant visuals students may encounter. And I also advise my students to use some picture dictionaries of common words. And co-creating picture dictionaries with students can be really beneficial for them. And they also use some different kinds of activities in the classrooms. For example, to differentiate instruction for students learning English, we also use a technique, a method called total physical response, TPR activities. So I give my students some instructions with physical movements. So I simply say, stand up if you agree with this statement, sit down if you don't agree. Or I give them some, for example, students need to use the restroom. They can do a certain hand motion, or when they are learning a new concept in math, moving their arms might be helpful. So these physical responses can attach language to motion, and it also helps the students' language acquisition.
That's interesting. Yes, I'm a fan of TPR, total physical response. I think it's a great way, in particular with younger learners, to get feedback from them, isn't it? To
Yeah,
very easily see if they've understood something.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And another thing you mentioned in the article that you wrote was this idea of parents and the fact that parents can put too much pressure on their children, they're too demanding, etc. Is there a way that you found of working with parents to try and make that easier so that there isn't that pressure on the children?
Yeah, so especially at the beginning of each year, parents are really stressful, they are nervous, and they are expecting some quick results from their students. I always emphasize in my parents' meeting that learning a new language requires a process and patience. They are, they have a tendency, the parents have a tendency to see some quick results from their students. And I observe that parents put too much pressure on their students, and we actually should inform the parents about the necessity of waiting. So you should just wait. You will see the result at the end of the year. Don't get very nervous, because that feeling can be reflected on your students' mindset. And I try to have some workshops with the parents. So those workshops actually really help parents to understand the school environment. When you invite parents to school, they see that there is no distance between me and my teacher. So I can communicate with my teacher whenever I want, and I can ask the process of my student. I can learn about my students' activities in the classroom. So there is no distance. I can feel comfortable. At the beginning of the year, I always come across some nervous parents, but it is easy to come over that if you talk to them, if you show them what you're doing in the classes, because they don't know how to manage their student at home, because this is a journey that also goes on in the classroom, outside of the classroom. So we need to engage with parents. We should share some resources. We should also guide them at home. Organizing workshops for parents where can they learn about the curriculum allows them to support their children more effectively at home. Because when families feel involved, it creates a kind of support system that enhances students' success.
And you, as a teacher, do you find that it's important to be able to get the support of the school managers, the heads, etc., to be able to, the other teachers, to be able to do that? Is it something that you find that it's very useful to work together with the school community to be able to do that? I imagine it is.
Yes. Yeah, that's really important to get support from your managers, from your teacher colleagues, because you know that teacher development, teaching journey is not just improving individual practice. It is all about cultivating a culture of life learning within the educational community. So, as a teacher, you are not alone. There are so many factors. There is a student factor, manager factor, parents factor. So, while actually you're teaching the classroom, you should think about the other stakeholders of education. So it is very important to invest in parents and the managers and the teacher colleagues in order to be successful in language education, because we should think this journey in broader aspects as an educational system. So until now, my managers, my administrators, and my teacher colleagues were really supportive. So whenever I come up with a new idea or new strategy, they always said that, yeah, we should implement this. We should involve it in our curriculum. So we should create an atmosphere in which families are part of this system, because we shouldn't separate families as a how can I say, as a different part of the system. They are inside the system. They should be inside of the system. And I'm always telling my parents that you shouldn't teach language at home, because teachers are teaching at school. So this is not your mission, or this is not your responsibility to teach something at home. You will just support them. You should always make your student feel that they are loved by their parents, even if they make mistakes, and they are a part of their journey, because this is a learning journey. Parents, managers, teachers should be a part of this journey. And during that journey, we will, of course, face some challenges. We will see some harsh weather conditions or some accidents, but that can happen. So we will overcome all those harsh things together with the help of our stakeholders, our supportive stakeholders.
What about if you have the situation where you have a difficult parent or a parent who proves to be challenging? How do you deal with that?
Mhm. I had some of the parents who actually resisted, who said that I am expecting 100% success from my student. So I actually had some online workshops with them. I also invited them to schools to see the environment, because you know that it is not very easy to convince a parent about the education system. They should see it, they should feel that environment. It takes time, but when they understand that you are genuine, you are not just giving them promises which are not going to be fulfilled, they know that we should trust that teacher, because when you're informing the parent, you should say all your sentences with an evidence. You should be aware of your system. You should make them feel that you are the authority. So this is not maybe right, but they should feel that teachers have that authority in the classroom and they know the best way to guide their students. That happens, but as they understand your power as a teacher, they understand that you have mastery in language education, they start to trust you. They start to listen to your guidance, and they start to have a different approach towards their child and towards the school, actually.
What about the role of things like homework, etc.? Do you encourage parents to become involved in that? Does that form part of your strategy as a teacher?
Yes. So actually, we have several online systems that we use in our classrooms, and students are expected to follow those systems at home. For example, we have a system called Reading Machine. So there are several books that students need to read it online, and they are supposed to complete those activities at home. One of the challenges that we have is about the homework. Sometimes the students are overwhelmed with the tons of homework, because we are not the only one that assign homework. The other teachers from math, science, they're also assigning homework. And we have a lot of material to cover, but there is no need to rush. So if we give them some manageable homework tasks, for example, if you overload students with a 10 book in a week, they can be overwhelmed. But if you give just 3 or 4 books in a week, and if you can give a deadline which is actually manageable by the student, it's okay. Actually, the teachers of ELLs can be really nervous, because you know that there is a lot of expectation from the managers, from the education system, and there is a curriculum to cover. Here, I recommend all teachers that we should just be patient and wait, because speaking in a slower tone, allowing extra time for students to respond, wait time, these are very important things. And it is the same for homework. You know that we have two types of skills in language. One is productive skills. One of them is receptive skills. So speaking and writing are characterized as productive languages, and we actually require students to produce language output very quickly. It takes time, but reading and listening are receptive skills. So I actually try to give homework based on receptive skills of students. So they should first listen to lots of audiobooks. They should listen to different kinds of songs. For example, I use a website called Lyrics Training. In that website, students can listen to different songs and they can fill in the blanks of those lyrics. It is a very enjoyable website. So the students do not understand this as homework. They believe that, they think that they're having fun, they're just listening to songs, but actually they are improving their language skills. And I also give them reading tasks because they need to understand what they are reading first. And then towards the end of the year, actually, I increase the number of writing assignments. So in homework, we always face challenges, but if we separate them into manageable small tasks, we can overcome those challenges.
So you mentioning the use of songs there. I know, and this was in your article as well, that you're a fan of making sure that the students are exposed to real life language, authentic materials, etc. Apart from songs, what other authentic materials do you use with your students?
So that's right. So role playing and simulations are great ways to teach ELL. So students can take on roles, simulate real life scenarios related to that subject. I advise my students to bring some objects from their home. For example, we are now talking about descriptive writing. So they are going to write a descriptive essay, but they are going to connect this to an old photo. So they need to find an old photo from their home. They should bring that old photo to school. And then we are going to have a look at that old photo. I'm going to ask students some questions about the photo. Where are you in this photo? What are you doing? Can you talk about your family members in this photo? Can you talk about five senses? So by means of that, I am actually trying to understand students' own experience, personal experience. And I also trigger my students to think critically. It actually enhances empathy and understanding because we allow our students to experience perspectives from different angles. I also like using some kinds of costumes. I always say that as teachers, we are never embarrassed. For example, we had book character day, and each one of us wore some different kinds of costumes. I become Heidi, and I wore my dress with my hat, and students also wore their own costumes. So by means of that, actually, you're engaging in book characters into your lessons. So students have a concrete image of book characters. They are not only on book covers. They also actually use authentic materials in their classrooms. Also, if we are, for example, talking about traditions and history, I ask my students to bring an object from their grandparents' house and talk about it and how they feel when they go to their grandparents' house and how they connect that object to past, to history or traditional way of living. And then we start to compare traditional way of living and modern way of living. So this is actually, these kinds of maybe small activities actually encourage students to apply their knowledge in real world contexts.
I love that idea of asking the students to get an object from their grandparents' house. It also involves them in a very kind of family, social oriented activity where they are taking an interest in their family, their grandparents, and having to ask them about that as well. Could you talk a little bit about some of the actual objects your students actually brought to class?
For example, they brought a kind of, how can I say, a kind of jar. It's kind of a special jar that we use in our houses, or a jug that we put some water inside, but they are made of different materials like how can I say, kind of bronze or gold. So they are very precious materials. And when they start bringing some materials, some objects from their houses, they are so protective. So they say that I should take care of it because so this is very precious. I brought it from my grandparents' house, so I should keep an eye on it. Please be careful, do not break it. This also gives students a sense of responsibility because they they should. I always tell my students that you are not alone. So you are living in a community. You should take care of your classroom, your school. You shouldn't throw rubbish. So by means of those tasks, we are also giving them a feeling of responsibility. If you bring something from home, an object, you should take care of it. You shouldn't lose it. You shouldn't break it because you are going to take it back to your grandparents. So they brought some different kinds of materials, something traditional and specific to Turkish culture.
Interesting. And apart from the jar, what other objects did the students bring?
They they brought, for example, a kind of watch, but those watches are used by our grandparents. They're different, they're bigger, and they do not keep it here on their arms. They keep it in their pockets. It's a kind of different clock, a kind of watch. And they also brought kinds of bags. Those bags are like patchwork, and they use those kinds of bags when they are going to farm and when they are having some agricultural farming things. And this is also very interesting. The things that we do not use now, but they used in the past. And I'm thinking there were lots of different things they used it. And they also brought some pictures, some portraits of their grandparents. Some of them are dead, some of them are alive. So they talk about their past experiences, the memories they shared with their grandparents. They were nice because you also build a kind of personal relationship with the student. And this is not all about actually teaching a language. You're learning about the personal aspects of your child. This actually satisfies the teacher. I feel that this job is rewarding when you get something from your student. We are always thinking of teaching, we are also learning from our students by means of those activities.
Yes, this idea of personalizing what you do with the students in class is important, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they can get a lot from it, better than just trying to work with a textbook and
Yep.
not
Peer
really relate
collaboration.
it to their lives.
Yeah, sure. So this is also, as you said, very good for peer collaboration. It's a very powerful tool. So when I have a writing task or a kind of dialogue, I pair ELLs because it not only helps them practice language skills, but also fosters friendships. For example, in one project, students work in pairs to create presentations on environmental issues, and they used Canva as a digital tool. So they also used a kind of digital tool. They also try to improve their speaking skills. And by placing ELLs with supportive partners, I observed that how they began to engage more and they started to ask questions. They even took some lead in their portions of the project, and their voices mattered. Their contributions were really integral to the success of the team. So at that point, yes, peer collaboration is so important in ELL.
And your mention of digital tools, you spoke a little bit about this earlier. You mentioned it. What about artificial intelligence? Have you seen that making an impact on what your students are doing at the moment, or what you and the other teachers are doing? How is that affecting the way that you teach or the way that the students learn?
Actually, there are lots of different opinions about artificial intelligence. There is a side that they're saying that yes, artificial intelligence is a great invention, it's a great discovery of our time. One of the sides says that no, it kills the creativity of the students. They are just using those artificial intelligence tools to complete their tasks, to do their homework. So Actually, it depends on the student and it depends on how you integrate technology into your lessons. For example, if you are incorporating educational technology in your lessons in a beneficial way, yes, that's great. For example, I love using AI tools to improve speaking and pronunciation skills of my students. For example, there is a website, it's called Speak and Improve. This website is empowered by artificial intelligence. But how? In Turkey, there are so many families that they don't have a chance to talk to a native person. So they can use that artificial intelligence to improve their speaking skills. By entering that website, they will come across some questions. For example, it tells you, tell about yourself, and you start to record your voice using a microphone. And then it asks you a follow-up question. Or it shows you a poster and it tells you, can you please talk about this poster? You record your voice and then it gives you instant feedback. That's a great tool because if you don't have a chance to practice English with a native speaker, that's great. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. I advise some AI tools to my students, or there is a website called Play HT or Historical Voices. I love it a lot. Human AI Historical Voices website. Here, students come across different kind of historical figures. For example, they can talk to Helen Keller. They can write some messages to her. Of course, there can be some informational mistakes. I don't say that whatever AI does is correct and we should depend on it. We should rely on everything it says. But it actually gives you a chance to learn more about that historical figure by just typing some messages as if you are really chatting with that historical figure. Or even Elon Musk, you can talk to him, you can chat with him with using AI. So I think if you have a good guide about digital tool, if your teacher or if your parent is guiding you on artificial intelligence in a good way, yes, that's good. But if you're just using artificial intelligence to make your job easier, or to just you write everything in artificial intelligence and it does your homework in a quick way, and you just try to submit it to your teacher will understand it anyway. We can see some different kinds of homework assignments made by AI. It's so easy to understand. So a good teacher can differentiate between homework done by the student himself or by AI. It depends on the situation and actually on the digital tool. I am using AI or digital tools. I love engaging those different kinds of technology into my lessons because it facilitates interactive lessons, it facilitates collaborative work. For example, Canva is great. I'm telling my students to create a kind of poster in Canva, and this is a digital tool, but this is also engaging students to differentiated learning, and you are how can I say, you're using different kinds of tools in terms of teaching a new language. So I think that's good.
Parentkind are a national charity representing parent views and voice and championing parental participation in education and school life. By fostering strong school-parent partnerships, we can boost student attendance, improve behaviour and enhance academic performance. When parents actively participate, students thrive. Join the movement that's reshaping education for the better. Visit parentkind.org to learn more about reaping the rewards of working in partnership with parents.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Do you ever wish you could sit down with other teachers and delve into the challenges and opportunities we face? Well, that's exactly what Table Talks at Bet UK is all about. Join small roundtable discussions based on your selected topics to share insights, learn from peers, and tackle the big issues in education, all in a sponsor-free environment. This is your chance to connect and collaborate like never before. Be part of the conversation at BET UK in January 2025. Visit uk.betshow.com to learn more.
Are you, as a teacher, given freedom to how you use AI? Or is there a policy in the school or in the district, etc., where you live?
Here, actually, at higher education, yes, there are some policies, and they are just giving them some guidelines on how to use it. But in primary and middle school, it changes from district to district. In our district, there is no policy, but you know that our curriculum is actually written by the head teachers of our school, and there are some general coordinators who guide that program. But we are also following that curriculum. But there are so many students in our classroom who need extra homework, who need extra attention. So these kinds of homework are good for the students who love technology, because you know that we are living in a world in which technology is inevitable, and you know that we should actually unlearn the things that we learned. There are so many outdated kinds of homework styles. I cannot say my students that now you're going to write this word 5 times on your notebook. They will not do that. They will get bored, because those students were born into technology. So you should try to change your teaching style, change the way that you utilize homework in your lessons. So there are some policies, yes, but it changes from district to district. And we are using in my school AI, and that is not a big problem now. But we are always saying parents that we have assigned that homework, and you should keep an eye on your child, because when you enter the digital digital world, it is really endless. And when students start to scroll down, they can see lots of different things. We should keep an eye, we should guide the students, and if we do like this, there will be no problem.
Interesting. That's a healthy approach to it, I think, definitely.
Yeah.
And speaking of healthy approaches, one of the other things you talk about very briefly in the article that you wrote was this idea of embracing a growth mindset. I'd love to hear more about that, why you think that's important, and how you approach that in your own lessons.
So, I'm always telling my students that you can make mistakes. As I said at the beginning, mistakes are proof that you are learning. And we need to promote growth mindset in our schools, both for our students and both for our colleagues. So, as a part of learning journey, I saw many students who were really nervous and depressed. For example, at the beginning of the year, I had a student who was crying all the time, and she was telling me that she could not understand anything in the lessons, because this was a language she was not taught before. It was the first time that she came across that language. And I started to share my own experiences, and I told her that how I struggled with learning a new skill. And actually, each mistake was a kind of stepping stone to improvement. And during my writing exercises, I always paired that student with a strong student. I encouraged my student to share drafts with each other and provide some constructive feedback. I try to transform that writing process, speaking process from a solitary task into a collaborative journey. And I emphasize that, yes, learning a new language can be really challenging and difficult for you, but the process is just as important as the final product. So you should just enjoy that time. You should get used to it. And you are not alone. There are so many students like you who are struggling to learn a new language. So growth mindset is really important for students and also for the teachers, because you know that sometimes we can feel overwhelmed, and we can feel that sense of burnout, and we should feel that yes, this process is temporary, it's not permanent. So we should focus on the things that we appreciate, because when we get a kind of angry call from a parent, we can feel nervous or demotivated. If we have a growth mindset, we can see this is a part of our teaching journey or a learning journey. We shouldn't focus on the negative sides of that. We should focus on the advantages of this learning journey.
Yes, that's important. And is it important to also introduce that to the learners as well, these ideas?
Yeah, I guess, because you know that we are working in an environment in which there are lots of tasks to finish, and there is a flow of information from internet, from email. So you know that you need to keep up with those things in daily life, and you can feel overwhelmed. And but if you focus on growth mindset in terms of teaching, also in our professional life, in our career, we will be very satisfied and we will be much happier. It is not very easy to ignore the problems. You know that there's a phrase called elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is used to talk about an obvious problem. Everybody sees it, but we are trying to ignore it. It is often sidestepped. So this elephant in the room can be a student who needs extra attention, can be a parent, can be digital technology, can be everything. So by growth mindset, yes, you should see that problem. I don't say that you should ignore it, but you should know how to cope with that problem.
Interesting. And you mentioned very briefly the pandemic and the importance of digital tools after the pandemic. I'd love to hear from you what your experience in with your students in your school was of the pandemic and the school closures. Were Was your school prepared? Were you prepared? Were you and your colleagues prepared to teach online, etc.? Did that happen? Was it problematic? Was your school one of the places where the transition to that was easy? What happened in the rest of the country? I'd love to hear more about that, because I think it's fascinating to hear about the experience of teachers during that period.
Yeah. So it was an unexpected situation for most of us, for all of us actually. And we were using digital tools in our classroom, but it was not our ultimate goal to teach something in digital. But after pandemic, we were pushed to use those digital tools in our lessons. And you know that students were really stressful because they were feeling very exhausted in front of the screens for the whole day, and kind of mood was changed, and their sense was heightened. They were feeling very exhausted, and teachers were really exhausted because they were so much going in our head when we were teaching our classroom. We would have some internet cutouts, we would have some technical problems. So our schools were not very prepared, but we had some quick how can I say, we took our precautions and we started to inform our parents very quickly, and we established our own online platforms, and students started to enter those online meetings. But here, our primary aim was not to teach something new. So the first thing that we aimed was to understand the mood of the student, the feelings of the students, because at that age, especially for the younger students, for primary students or kindergarten students, it is not very easy to understand that situation. What is happening outside the world? Why are we all in the same house? Why is my mother sitting with me, not going to work? So they were trying to understand, comprehend that situation. It wasn't very easy. It was really challenging for most of us, and students' attention span was really low. So we were having some 40 minutes lesson. but at first 10 minutes, 20 minutes, yes, they were good. They were listening and they were answering our questions. But after 20 minutes, they were starting to be busy with something else. They had some toys in their hands, some pens, and they were not really concentrating on the lesson, it was for sure. And there was nothing to do for the teacher, because you cannot just take that toy from the student's hand. And yes, you were warning, you were saying that please focus on the lesson, and we were using some different kinds of activities in the lesson, but it was very hard to keep attention on the screen for 40 minutes. And we actually try to use many different activities in our lessons according to the learning styles of our students. So some of our students were auditory learners, some of them were kinesthetic learners. So I use, for example, TPR activities a lot in my lessons, because students could not sit on a chair for 40 minutes. And I asked them to stretch, raise your hands, let's stand up, let's sing a song. So I try to make quick switches between activities. So we did not use one activity for the whole lesson. We used at least 4 different activities in our lessons. We incorporated them, and we had a very smooth transition from one activity to another. So students tried to keep their attention on the activities. They were expecting a change, and they were excited that now another activity will start, what's going to happen. We try to actually increase the curiosity and excitement for the students, but it was really difficult. Those were the days.
Right, yeah. But it sounds like you and your school and your colleagues managed to adapt well enough that the students weren't affected so much, because in a lot of places the students were very affected and there was a lot of learning loss, wasn't there?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Was that the case in other parts of Turkey, do you think? Did a lot of students miss
Yeah,
out, or?
for the primary students, for example, the ones who were going to first grade at that time is now fourth or fifth grade. And now I can see that students cannot keep themselves focused on one task for a long time. So, not in terms of learning loss, but in terms of, how can I say, keeping attention on one task, yes, we can see some disadvantages of online learning. And this actually affected them in terms of social and emotional well-being.
Interesting. So you actually have detected the effects of that not being at school, and it's mainly from a social point of view.
Yeah, because schools are not only places for academic learning, it's a place for having friendships, meeting different people. They are hubs of socializing. So I can see that students may have difficulty in making a new friend now, because they are just they were used to using different online tools, and they were just used to writing messages. They forgot how to speak, how to use the etiquette. In our classroom, I always emphasizing that moral codes and etiquette are very important. In online, yes, there is also an online etiquette, but in real life, it is difficult. So you should always use the words like please, thank you, can I have, may I go. These are very important and kind expressions. Maybe students forgot those expressions during those times. They just use thumbs up, thumbs down, mute yourself, turn on your camera. These were the basic phrases they heard and they used. And I can see some disadvantages, some effects, some impacts on the students, unfortunately.
Yes. So, Sina, I think we have talked quite a lot about empowering learners, and I'm very happy that you shared so many ideas and how you approach that. Is there anything I've missed out that perhaps you think is important if a teacher wants to do that, to try and empower their learners more in their classes?
So thing I always recommend the novice teachers that engaging in continuous professional development is really important when you are teaching ELLs. So you should stay informed about effective methods for supporting diverse learners in your classrooms. And I also like to tell the novice teachers that classroom management strategies can vary from a teacher to teacher, and we should focus on creating a safe, inclusive, and happy environment where all students feel free to express themselves. And we as teachers, I think, have superpowers. We are sometimes nurses, we are sometimes doctors, teachers, and sometimes we feel burnt out, we feel overwhelmed. We should give some time for ourselves. We should always keep in mind that we should look after ourselves as teachers. And it's a great pleasure to be with you today. And sharing is caring. Teaching has been a transformative journey for me, and I'm very happy to be here with you and to have the opportunity to empower teachers and to talk about my experiences. Thanks a lot for this opportunity, Graham.
It's a pleasure. And what does the future hold for you, Seda? Are you planning to continue in the school doing what you're doing? You're very happy as a teacher?
Yeah, I'm happy to teach students because you know that while you're teaching, you're learning. Teaching is to learn twice. But I also like to give some teacher training courses. And for example, now I'm focusing on a course module on digital technology. And I'm also giving some conferences, leading conferences for novice teachers at universities. So I would like to go on my teaching journey, but also I would like to improve my professional career in terms of trainings.
No, that's very, very important, I think. And it's also very interesting as you, in the same way that you shared your knowledge in the article that I read that first brought you to my attention. I think it's so important that as you gain an experience as a teacher, that you can share your experience and ideas with other teachers, either at conferences, through training sessions, or through articles, isn't it?
Yeah, that's great because you're learning lots of new things from your teacher colleagues. They're sharing their experiences, and you find something mutual, something common between you and your teacher colleagues. So that's a great way to share and to learn about others.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, Seda. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks a lot. It's my pleasure.
Parentkind are a national charity representing parent views and voice and championing parental participation in education and school life. By fostering strong school-parent partnerships, we can boost student attendance, improve behaviour and enhance academic performance. When parents actively participate, students thrive. Join the movement that's reshaping education for the better. Visit parentkind.org to learn more about reaping the rewards of working in partnership with parents.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Do you ever wish you could sit down with other teachers and delve into the challenges and opportunities we face? Well, that's exactly what Table Talks at Bet UK is all about. Join small roundtable discussions based on your selected topics to share insights, learn from peers, and tackle the big issues in education, all in a sponsor-free environment. This is your chance to connect and collaborate like never before. Be part of the conversation at Bet UK in January 2025. Visit uk.betshow.com to learn more.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
Schools Week features early feedback from the curriculum review led by Professor Becky Francis. According to the article, teachers feel disempowered and deprofessionalised by overstipulation and the challenge to cover content. Professor Francis said the roadshows have so far gathered mixed and diverse views. She spoke at the recent CST conference about how frequent complaints are around how assessment and exams dictate the curriculum, which is often described as overstuffed, and that this has led to the deprioritisation of certain subjects and reduced enrichment activities. Concerns have also been raised about a lack of awareness of vocational routes at post-16. Positive themes have included an appreciation of the ambition for all in the current national curriculum, and reading was mentioned as a thing that has gone well. The TES magazine covers draft proposals for changes to Ofsted's inspection framework. The magazine says Ofsted told sector leaders that teaching could be assessed as a separate category under new draft plans. The watchdog has been sharing its initial plans for inspection areas with a wide range of senior figures in recent weeks, ahead of a formal consultation launch in the new year. A report in the Financial Times has said that Ofsted is also proposing replacing its current grading system with a 5-point scale, in which schools would be rated as being exemplary, strong practice, secure, attention needed, or causing concern in each area. The TES reports there had been another version of the proposals that included a 7-point scale. Head teachers' leaders have raised concerns that Ofsted's plans are too complicated and warned that the Department for Education and the Inspectorate are in a headlong rush to create a new system. The plans involve separating out teaching and the curriculum into separate inspection areas, which have caused concern amongst those who have been consulted, particularly amid the recruitment and retention challenges. Teaching and curriculum are assessed together in the current framework. Ofsted's informal consultation comes after the Inspectorate was warned not to draw up its new framework behind closed doors. Other categories understood to be included in the new report card proposals include attendance, opportunities to thrive, outcomes, behaviour, leadership, preparation for next steps, and also inclusion. An Ofsted source told TES the proposal to make teaching a separate category was not about returning to lesson observations. Instead, it was about making it clear that the focus would be on how teachers are supported. The spokesperson said, "Great teaching is the most important lever schools have to improve pupil attainment for the most disadvantaged pupils." The Guardian reports on young people from working class backgrounds are being blocked from entering the creative industries, which remain elitist according to research. A report from the Sutton Trust found stark overrepresentation in the arts for those from the most affluent backgrounds. About 7% of people educated in the UK attend private fee-paying schools. However, 43% of Britain's best-selling classical musicians and 35% of BAFTA-nominated actors are alumni of private schools. However, pop stars appear to better reflect the educational backgrounds of the UK population, with only 8% privately educated and 20% university educated, which are both close to the national average. The report said, "There are clear class inequalities in creative higher education, and the creative workforce with high-profile creative figures in fields like television more likely to have attended private school and university than the population overall." The Sutton Trust has called for a range of measures to improve access to the arts, with its chief executive saying it is a tragedy that young people from working class backgrounds are the least likely to study creative arts degrees. Further details, including a range of statistics, can be found in the article on the Guardian website. Finally, the Irish Times features a story on Ryanair's Michael O'Leary, who it says has doubled down on comments he made about teachers, saying he wouldn't generally employ a lot of teachers to go out and get things done. The comments have been condemned by many as insulting and failed to reflect the enormous contribution teachers have made to Irish society and enterprise. Mr. O'Leary was apparently unapologetic and said he was making a serious point. Full details can be found in the Irish Times online. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Jo Fox.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.